My husband said I was too boring for him, so I turned his double life into his worst nightmare. I never thought I'd be sharing this story online, but here I am, typing with shaky hands because sometimes you just need to tell someone, anyone, what you've been through. I'm still processing everything that's happened over the last 8 months. 8 months that destroyed the life I thought I had, but also showed me who I really am. It started on a completely ordinary Tuesday last September. I can still picture the burgundy sweater I was wearing. Funny how your brain latches onto those small details when your world is about to implode. I was cleaning out Ryan's closet while he was on yet another business trip to Chicago. After 12 years of marriage, I was used to his travel schedule ramping up. Financial consulting meant client meetings, and client meetings meant travel. At least, that's what I thought. I wasn't snooping, I swear I wasn't. I was organizing his dress shirts by color. Yes, I'm that type of person, when I knocked over a shoebox from the top shelf. Out spilled receipts. Dozens of them. Restaurant bills from places in Boston I'd never heard of. Hotel charges from weekends he was supposedly visiting his mother in Connecticut. A jewelry receipt for a white gold bracelet with an engraving I couldn't make out, dated just 3 weeks earlier. My birthday had come and gone with just a hastily purchased scarf. That sick, hollow feeling in your stomach when you just know something is wrong? It hit me like a physical blow. I sank to the floor, receipts scattered around me like evidence at a crime scene. Which, in a way, it was. I wish I could say I confronted him immediately, but I didn't. Instead, I did something that surprised even myself. I carefully put everything back exactly as I'd found it. Then I went to our home office and opened his laptop. His password had been the same for years, our anniversary followed by his college football jersey number. How sentimental of him. What I found sent me running to the bathroom to throw up. Email after email to someone named Alessandra. Plans for weekends together. Intimate details I can't bring myself to repeat. Photos I'll never be able to unsee. And the worst part? The way he spoke about me. She doesn't suspect anything. She's too boring to question why I'm gone. Trapped in her little suburban bubble. I can't believe I settled for this life. 12 years. 12 years of supporting his career moves, of handling everything at home so he could focus on climbing the corporate ladder. 12 years of believing we were building something together. And all along, he saw me as a boring convenience. I spent that night in a daze, my mind racing between denial, devastation, and a strange, detached calm. When he called for our nightly check-in, I played my part perfectly. Asked about his meetings, told him about the neighbor's new fence, reminded him we had dinner with his boss scheduled for the following weekend, all while staring at a photo of him and Alessandra on a yacht I'd never seen, his hand possessively on her hip. The next morning, I called in sick to my job at the library. I've never been a spontaneous person. I've always followed rules, kept schedules, been reliable. But something inside me had fundamentally shifted. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg him to choose me. I wasn't going to be the hysterical betrayed wife who gets painted as unstable. No. If Ryan thought I was boring, I was about to become the most methodical, calculating, patient person he'd ever encountered. First, I needed information. Real information. So I hired a private investigator. Used our emergency savings to do it. $5,000 that we'd put aside for unforeseen circumstances. Well, finding out your husband has been living a double life certainly qualifies, doesn't it? While I waited for the PI's results, I did what any good librarian would do, research. I learned about the divorce laws in our state. I documented every asset we owned. I went through years of financial records, creating spreadsheets, noting patterns in his spending, identifying discrepancies. I photographed everything in our home. I started recording our phone calls. I opened a separate bank account in only my name and transferred a reasonable amount into it, not enough to trigger accusations of financial impropriety, but enough to sustain me if things got ugly. 10 days later, I met with the PI in a coffee shop 3 towns over. What he handed me confirmed everything and revealed so much more. Alessandra wasn't some random affair. She was his co-worker. They'd been together for 3 years. He'd set her up in an apartment he paid for, using our joint funds. But that wasn't even the worst part. He'd been systematically moving money from our accounts into investments under his name only. Small amounts at first, then larger sums as he grew confident I wouldn't notice. He'd taken out a second mortgage on our house, a house I'd contributed my entire inheritance to purchasing, without my knowledge, using forged signatures. And there was a third bombshell: Alessandra was pregnant. 4 months along. I sat in my car afterward and had my only breakdown. 20 minutes of uncontrollable sobbing, hitting the steering wheel until my hands bruised, screaming until my throat was raw. Then I wiped my face, reapplied my lipstick, and drove to meet with the best divorce attorney in the state, one whose reputation for being ruthlessly effective preceded her. "You've done impressive preliminary work," she told me after reviewing my documents. "Most people come in emotional and unprepared. You've given me a lot to work with." She didn't know the half of it. My plan wasn't to simply divorce Ryan. My plan was to dismantle the life he'd built on lies, piece by careful piece, before he ever saw it coming. The attorney advised me not to confront Ryan yet, to continue gathering evidence while she prepared the divorce filing. "The element of surprise will be crucial," she said. "Especially with the financial fraud he's committed." So I became the perfect actress. When Ryan returned from his business trip, I greeted him with his favorite dinner and didn't ask questions when he said he needed to go in early the next morning. I listened to his lies with a smile, all while knowing exactly where he was going and who he was with. I even accepted his last-minute cancellation of our weekend plans with his boss, knowing he was actually taking Alessandra to a bed and breakfast in Vermont. But while I played the role of oblivious wife, I was setting everything in motion. First, I anonymously contacted 3 of his largest clients with evidence that Ryan had been padding his expense accounts and double billing them. I didn't reveal my identity, I simply sent documentation with a note that they might want to audit their accounts with his firm. All information I'd gathered legally from our home records. Next, I reached out to his mother. We'd always been close, and this was the hardest part. I visited her without Ryan knowing and laid out everything I'd discovered. She sat in shocked silence, then reached for my hand. "I always feared he was too much like his father," she finally said. This was news to me. Ryan had always claimed his father died when he was young. Turns out his father hadn't died. He'd abandoned their family for another woman, leaving them financially devastated. Ryan had been 14. His mother had worked 3 jobs to keep them afloat. "He swore he would never be like him," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, Claire." His mother became my unexpected ally. She provided me with family information I'd never known, including the existence of an uncle who'd helped them financially after Ryan's father left, an uncle whose trust had provided Ryan with the seed money for his first investments, given with the understanding that Ryan would always take care of his mother. Money he'd recently suggested his mother probably didn't need anymore and tried to persuade her to reinvest with him. 3 weeks into my information gathering, Ryan's firm called him in for an urgent meeting. One of his clients had alleged financial impropriety. I kissed him goodbye that morning, wishing him luck with the misunderstanding. He came home furious, ranting about incompetent accounting and jealous colleagues trying to sabotage him. "I'm sure they'll sort it out," I said soothingly, pouring him a drink. "You're too valuable to them." 2 days later, 2 more clients came forward with similar allegations. Ryan was placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. He was livid, pacing our living room, making frantic calls. I suggested he use the unexpected time off to visit his mother. "You've been so busy lately, and she mentioned wanting to see you." He brushed me off. "I don't have time for that right now. She's getting older, Ryan. Family should come first." The irony of my words wasn't lost on me. "Just drop it, Claire. God, you can be so nagging sometimes." I apologized and retreated to the kitchen, where I quietly texted his mother to put the next phase in motion. She called him that evening, sounding unusually distressed, asking if he could come help her with an urgent plumbing issue that was flooding the basement. With his work situation already precarious, Ryan couldn't refuse this filial duty without looking like even more of a monster. The next morning, he left for Connecticut, promising to be back by dinner. What he didn't know was that his mother had arranged for his childhood pastor to drop by, a man who had mentored Ryan and whom he still respected enormously. A man who, thanks to my conversation with his mother, had been fully briefed on Ryan's double life and financial misconduct. Was I going too far? Maybe. But discovering the man you built your life around has been systematically betraying you, belittling you, and stealing from you tends to recalibrate your moral compass. While Ryan was getting what I imagined was quite the spiritual reckoning in Connecticut, I was executing the most crucial part of my plan. I had scheduled a meeting with Thomas Harrington, Ryan's boss and the founding partner of the firm. I'd met him several times at company functions, where he'd always told Ryan how lucky he was to have such a lovely, supportive wife. If only he knew. Mr. Harrington was surprised to see me arrive alone for what had been scheduled as a lunch with both of us. I apologized for the confusion and presented him with a folder containing documentation of all of Ryan's financial misdeeds, both professional and personal. "I discovered this while preparing our tax returns," I explained, the perfect picture of the concerned wife torn between loyalty and integrity. "I can't in good conscience keep this information to myself, but I'm devastated about what it means for Ryan. For us." I let my voice crack on those last words. Let him see the wedding ring I still wore. Let him believe I was struggling with this betrayal of my husband, rather than orchestrating his downfall. Mr. Harrington reviewed the documents with increasing alarm. Mrs. Mitchell, this goes far beyond what our internal audit has uncovered. This is extensive. I know, I whispered, eyes downcast. I'm still trying to process it myself. The separate accounts, the forged documents. I don't even know who he is anymore. You've done the right thing bringing this to me, he assured me, his tone gentling as he would with any victim. And in many ways, I was a victim. But not a helpless one. Not anymore. There's something else you should know, I added, sliding across one final document, proof that Ryan had been sleeping with a subordinate at the firm. Office relationships weren't expressly forbidden, but undisclosed ones that created conflicts of interest? Those violated several company policies. I see, Mr. Harrington said grimly. Rest assured, we will handle this with the utmost discretion. I dabbed at my eyes with a tissue. I'd appreciate that. This is already so humiliating. When Ryan returned that evening, he was subdued. He didn't mention his conversation with the pastor, and I didn't ask. He did say his mother seemed confused about the plumbing emergency when he arrived. Must have been a false alarm, I suggested. Still, I'm sure she appreciated seeing you. That night, he received an email requesting his presence at an 8 a.m. meeting the following day with the executive committee. He assumed it was about the client allegations. He couldn't have known that I'd spent 3 hours with his boss providing evidence not only of his professional misconduct but his personal betrayals as well. I'm sure it will be fine, I assured him as he fretted about the meeting. They know how valuable you are. He kissed my forehead absently. You always see the best in situations, Claire. It's sweet, even if it's a bit naive. I had to turn away so he wouldn't see my expression. Naive. If only he knew. The next morning, I prepared his favorite breakfast and straightened his tie before he left. Good luck today, I said. I believe in you. He didn't come home for lunch. Or dinner. At 9 p.m., he finally walked through the door, ashen-faced and smelling of whiskey. They fired me, he said flatly. Effective immediately. Harrington had everything. Client records. Personal accounts. Even knew about, he stopped himself. Knew about what? I asked, my voice steady. Nothing. Just. They're alleging financial improprieties. It's all a misunderstanding that got blown out of proportion. That's terrible, I said. Can they do that without proper investigation? They claim they have been investigating. For weeks. He loosened his tie with jerky movements. I need a drink. I poured him one, using the special occasion whiskey. It seemed fitting. What will you do? I asked. Call some contacts. Damage control. He downed the drink in one go. I need to reach out to clients, explain things before rumors spread. My reputation is everything in this business. Oh, I was counting on that. Of course, I said. Is there anything I can do to help? He barely glanced at me. Just. Give me some space to figure this out. The next morning, he was on his phone from the moment he woke up, calling clients, colleagues, anyone who might help salvage his career. But each call seemed to leave him more agitated. By midday, he was pacing furiously. No one's taking my calls, he finally exploded. 12 years in this business, and suddenly I'm a pariah? This is a goddamn witch hunt. I made sympathetic noises while washing dishes, hiding my face so he wouldn't see my satisfaction. What he didn't know was that his most important clients had received detailed documentation of his financial manipulations days before. Not from the firm, from anonymous sources concerned about potential fraud. His professional reputation wasn't just damaged, it was in free fall. The next blow came that afternoon. Ryan's credit cards were declined when he tried to book a flight to meet with a potential new employer. Puzzled, he called the bank, only to be informed that his accounts were being investigated for potential fraud and had been temporarily frozen. This is insane, he fumed after hanging up. It has to be Harrington's doing. He's poisoning everything. Maybe you should call Alessandra, I suggested quietly. She works in finance too. Perhaps she can help sort this out. The silence was absolute. Ryan stood frozen, staring at me with dawning horror. What did you say? I met his gaze steadily. Alessandra. Your girlfriend. The one who's carrying your child. The one you've been supporting with money stolen from our accounts. That Alessandra. Claire. He began, his voice shifting into the soothing, patronizing tone he used when he thought I was being emotional. I don't know what you think you've. Stop. I held up my hand. I know everything, Ryan. I have for weeks. The apartment on Marlborough Street. The vacations you took her on while telling me you were at conferences. The $12,000 bracelet you bought her last month, engraved with "Forever Yours," if I'm not mistaken. His face went through a remarkable series of expressions: shock, guilt, calculation, and finally, a forced contrition. Claire, I can explain. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, I cut him off. But what you don't know is that while you were building your little side life, I was discovering who I really am. And it turns out, I'm not the boring, naive housewife you thought you married. He took a step toward me, hands outstretched in supplication. Baby, listen. No, you listen, I said, my voice ice cold. The firm didn't just stumble upon evidence of your misconduct. I gave it to them. The clients didn't randomly audit their accounts with you. I pointed them to the discrepancies. Your accounts aren't frozen because of Harrington. They're frozen because your name was flagged for fraud investigation based on documentation I provided. His face drained of color. You? What? You did this? To me? Your husband? My husband? I laughed, and it sounded foreign even to my own ears. My husband died the moment he decided to steal from me, cheat on me, and bring another woman's child into the world while telling her I was too boring to notice. How did you even? There's no way you figured this all out on your own. His disbelief was almost comical. He still couldn't believe his mousy librarian wife had outsmarted him. You left breadcrumbs everywhere, Ryan. You just assumed I was too stupid to see them. But here's what you need to understand: I'm not destroying you. You did that yourself. I'm just making sure you face consequences for once in your privileged, entitled life. His expression changed then, hardened into something ugly. You vindictive bitch. You think you've won? You've got nothing without me. Nothing. Who are you without me? Just some pathetic small-town librarian with no ambition and no future. I smiled then, genuinely amused by his tantrum. That's where you're wrong. I have everything I need: intelligence you underestimated, patience you didn't know I possessed, and evidence of every single thing you've done. Which brings me to this. I handed him a thick manila envelope. Inside were divorce papers, already filed with the court. You've been served, I said calmly. You'll note that I've documented all your financial fraud, including the second mortgage you took out using my forged signature. My attorney believes that's enough for criminal charges, by the way. The judge has already frozen all our marital assets pending investigation. He ripped through the papers, his face contorting with rage. You can't do this. I already have. Oh, and you should know, your mother has revoked access to the family trust. Apparently, she's quite disappointed to discover you're exactly like your father after all. That hit him like a physical blow. You talked to my mother? We had a lovely chat. She's been incredibly supportive. Offered to testify about your attempts to access her finances, if needed. He sank onto the couch, papers clutched in his hands, finally speechless. You should call Alessandra, I said. Given that your credit cards are frozen, your bank accounts are under investigation, and you're about to be facing potential criminal charges for financial fraud, she might want to reconsider her position. Especially since the firm is also reviewing her employment status due to the undisclosed relationship with a superior. I believe the term is hostile work environment. You've thought of everything, he said, voice hollow. I had plenty of time while you were busy thinking I was too boring to notice you destroying our life together. I checked my watch. I have dinner plans, so I'll need you to be gone when I get back. You can take your personal items, but everything else stays until the court determines distribution. The locks will be changed tomorrow. Where am I supposed to go? The entitlement in his voice was still there, even now. I shrugged. That sounds like a you problem. Perhaps the apartment you've been keeping for your girlfriend? Though I did inform the building management about the potential legal issues surrounding the rent payments, so that might be awkward. As I grabbed my purse and keys, he called after me, desperation creeping into his voice. Claire, wait. We can work this out. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But we have 12 years together. That has to count for something. I paused at the door and looked back at the man I'd once built my life around. It counted for everything to me, Ryan. That's the difference between us. And that's why you're going to lose everything, while I'm just getting started. I did meet my friends for dinner that night, though I didn't tell them what had transpired. Not yet. I wanted to savor this moment of transition privately. The shift from victim to victor. When I returned home 3 hours later, Ryan was gone. So was his collection of designer watches and his grandmother's diamond cufflinks, the only items of significant value small enough to carry out easily. I'd anticipated this and had already documented and insured everything of value in the house. His desperation was becoming predictable. The next morning brought a barrage of texts and calls, alternating between desperate pleas for reconciliation and venomous threats. I documented each one and forwarded them to my attorney without responding. Let him dig his hole deeper. By midday, he seemed to realize I wasn't going to engage and change tactics. He showed up at the library where I work, causing a scene that ended with my boss calling security. "Claire, please," he shouted as they escorted him out. "I'll do anything. I'll end it with her. I'll get counseling. Don't throw away 12 years. My coworkers stared, wide-eyed. I simply returned to the biography section I'd been reorganizing, though my hands shook slightly. "Are you okay?" my colleague Susan asked. "Do you need to go home?" "I'm fine," I replied, surprised to find it was true. "But I think it's time I shared some news." That afternoon, over coffee in the break room, I told my coworkers the condensed version of what had been happening. Their shock and support were genuine, and for the first time, I allowed myself to feel the validating warmth of people who saw me, really saw me, and were on my side. Later that day, Ryan's mother called. "He came to my house," she said, her voice tired. "Demanding to know why I'm taking your side and insisting I help him financially until this misunderstanding is cleared up." "What did you tell him?" I asked. "I told him he made his choices, and now he can live with them. Just like his father had too," she sighed. "Claire, I want you to know. Whatever happens with the divorce and everything else, you're still family to me. More family than he is right now." Her words brought the first genuine tears I'd shed in days. That evening, as I was preparing a simple dinner for myself, my phone dinged with an email notification. It was from Alessandra. "I don't know if you'll read this, but I need you to know I had no idea you existed until 2 weeks ago. Ryan told me he was divorced, that his ex-wife had moved back to Ohio years ago. I never saw your photos in his apartment because he said it was too painful to keep reminders of his failed marriage. When I got pregnant, he promised we would make things official. I believed him. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just understanding that there were 2 women deceived here, not one. I've left him and the firm. I'm moving back to my parents' house in Seattle. I'm sorry." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Thank you for reaching out. I believe you were deceived, as I was. I don't hold you responsible for his actions. I wish you and your child well." It was brief but honest. Her betrayal wasn't intentional. His was. Update. It's been 2 months since everything exploded. The divorce proceedings are moving forward, with the court taking a very dim view of Ryan's financial manipulations. His attempts to hide assets have been clumsy and transparent, each one documented by my attorney and added to the growing file of his misconduct. The firm's investigation expanded to include several other clients Ryan had been defrauding. The district attorney is now reviewing the case for potential criminal charges. His professional reputation is in tatters, with industry blogs having picked up the story of the fallen financial wonderkind. Ryan himself has cycled through strategies with increasing desperation. He tried intimidation first, sending threatening messages that my attorney promptly added to our court filings. When that failed, he attempted charm, sending flowers and heartfelt letters reminiscing about our early days together. Then came the pity play, showing up at my friend's house, where I was staying temporarily, looking disheveled and claiming he was at rock bottom and needed my help. Finally, he resorted to what manipulators always do when nothing else works. He tried to rewrite history. He began telling mutual friends that our marriage had been troubled for years, that I'd been emotionally distant, that we'd discussed separation long ago. Some believed him. Most didn't. Through it all, I remained focused on rebuilding my life. I returned to graduate school to finish the library science degree I'd put on hold when Ryan's career required us to relocate years ago. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with, many of whom were shocked by the disparity between the Ryan they thought they knew and the man revealed by his actions. I've moved into a small but sunny apartment near the library, taking only what was undeniably mine from our shared home. The house itself remains in legal limbo, another asset frozen by the court until financial matters are settled. Ryan's mother calls weekly to check on me. Last Sunday, she revealed that Ryan had called her, sobbing, saying he finally understood what he'd thrown away. "Too little, too late," was her unsympathetic response. As for me, I'm discovering that the woman Ryan dismissed as boring is actually quite interesting when not subjugating her needs and identity to accommodate a narcissist. I've joined a hiking group, started learning Italian, and even gone on a few casual dates, nothing serious, but enough to remind me that there's a world of possibilities beyond the constraints of my former life. The most unexpected outcome has been my relationship with Alessandra. After several cautious email exchanges, we agreed to a video call. It was surreal, seeing the woman whose existence had shattered my world. She looked younger than her photos, her pregnancy now visibly showing at 6 months. "I wanted to hate you," I admitted during that first awkward conversation. "But you're as much a victim in this as I am." "Not as much," she insisted. "You lost a 12-year marriage. I lost a 3-year fantasy. We've developed a strange alliance, sharing information that has helped both of us navigate the aftermath of Ryan's deception. Her insights into his workplace manipulation tactics provided valuable evidence for both the divorce proceedings and the firm's investigation." Edit. 6 months in, and the consequences of Ryan's actions continue to unfold. The criminal investigation into his financial fraud is proceeding, with the prosecutor indicating they have enough evidence for indictment. My divorce attorney believes we'll finalize everything within the next 3 months, with the court likely to award me the house and a significant portion of our remaining assets as compensation for the financial fraud. Ryan has become increasingly desperate as his options narrow. Last month, he took his most pitiful swing yet. He showed up at my apartment, drunk and disheveled, begging for another chance. "I've hit rock bottom, Claire," he slurred, swaying in my doorway. "I've lost everything. My job, my reputation, my future. I've lost you. I didn't know how much that would gut me until it happened." "That's the consequence of your choices," I said calmly, neither inviting him in nor shutting the door in his face. I know," he repeated, running his hands through his unwashed hair. "But people make mistakes. Terrible mistakes. They deserve second chances if they're truly sorry. And I am sorry, Claire. More than you can possibly imagine." "Are you sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught?" I asked. He flinched. "Both. I didn't appreciate what I had. I took you for granted. I was seduced by the excitement, the novelty. But it wasn't real. What we had was real." "What we had was a lie," I corrected him. "I believed in our marriage while you were systematically betraying me, not just with another woman, but by stealing from me, mocking me behind my back, building a separate life while letting me believe in ours." "I can make it right," he insisted, reaching for my hand. I stepped back. "We can start over. Counseling, complete transparency, whatever you need. I've learned my lesson. I've changed." I studied him, this man I once would have done anything for. In his desperation, I finally saw the truth. He didn't miss me. He missed his comfortable life, his safety net, his fallback plan now that everything else had collapsed. "You haven't changed, Ryan. You're still only thinking about what you want and need. Not once have you asked how I'm doing, what I want, who I've become through all this. That's how I know this isn't real remorse, it's just more manipulation." His expression hardened, the mask of contrition slipping. "So that's it? 12 years together, and you're just done? Where's your forgiveness, your compassion? I thought you were better than this, Claire." I laughed then, genuinely amused by his audacity. "See? There it is. The real Ryan, blaming me for having boundaries. And to answer your question, I am better than this. Better than you. Better than the woman who would have forgiven this level of betrayal just to avoid being alone. That's why I'm done." I began to close the door, but he slammed his palm against it. "You've ruined my life," he hissed. "I hope you're proud of yourself." "No, Ryan. You ruined your own life. I just made sure you couldn't ruin mine anymore." I shut the door firmly and leaned against it, listening to him curse and eventually stomp away. Instead of the fear or sadness I might have felt months ago, I experienced something unexpected: peace. The certainty that I was finally free of his influence, his manipulation, his power to make me doubt myself. The next day, I filed a restraining order. Not out of fear, but as another boundary, one more way to maintain the distance I'd fought so hard to create. Last week brought an unexpected epilogue to this chapter of my life. Alessandra called to tell me she'd given birth to a baby girl. Ryan hasn't contacted her since she moved to Seattle, hasn't inquired about the child, hasn't offered support. "I wanted you to hear it from me," she said. "And I wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" I was confused. "For what?" "For showing me what real strength looks like. For treating me with dignity when you had every reason not to. If my daughter grows up to have half your resilience, I'll consider myself successful as a mother." Her words struck me deeply. Through all of this pain and upheaval, I'd never considered that my actions might serve as an example to others. That in fighting for myself, I might inadvertently be showing someone else how to do the same. I'm not naive enough to think the road ahead will be easy. The divorce still looms, as does the possibility of testifying in criminal proceedings. Ryan's sporadic attempts to reassert control will likely continue until all legal matters are resolved. But for the first time in longer than I can remember, I'm living authentically, guided by my own values rather than someone else's expectations. The boring, predictable wife Ryan dismissed has become a woman even I am still getting to know, stronger, more resilient, and far more interesting than either of us ever imagined. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't what you do to someone else, but who you become in spite of them. Ryan wanted a doormat and got a warrior instead. He thought I was too boring to notice his betrayal. Now he'll have a lifetime to contemplate how thoroughly he underestimated me. As for me, I'm just getting started.